Well, thank you, and I appreciate the compliments. And on behalf of Michael Odell and Stu Johnson and our entire staff at Lewisville, we just want to say thank you for letting us promote our program, promote our kids. And so I'll get right into it, which is why you guys joined in. So again, thank you for giving me your time. What we do at Lewisville is we like to try to categorize our defenses into 7, 8, and 9-man spacing structures. We do categorize this through the way that we call our defenses. I can get into that a little bit more, but like our nomenclature lets our kids know that we are in 7-man spacing versus what I was going to talk to you all about today, which is more of 8-man spacing. But I think what's important for us to understand between this slide here, 7-man spacing being out-gapped, meaning you're going to be short in the run game. This is where you start seeing the things I talked about last week, where you're having to play Jimmy and Pony, pirate, cut the front up, use stack track fallback techniques to make sure that you are, if you will, big boxing this fit, because you're 1 DB short removed from the, if you will, the RPO side. So it's very important that we understand that while we're trying to play 7-man spacing, we do still have to consider and fit it like 8-man spacing. We're just trying to slow it down, have the ball roll off the table, and try to keep 1 DB kind of removed out of the fit as long as we possibly can. Whereas you can see here in 8-man spacing, what we consider as being gapped out. Now, I tell a lot of young coaches, when we play 8-man spacing, we do expect to play the run better, but we do not expect to stop the run completely. The thing about a quarterback that runs the football, yes, we have every gap covered, but if they were to add the quarterback into the run game, they would have an extra gap than we would. So, yes, a lot of times when I played high school football, we got into cover 3 and 8-man spacing, and that was our run defense. But for us, truly what we get into is what we would call 9-man spacing to be able to stop the run. And that's quarters or cover 0, however you want to look at it. But putting enough people in the, if you will, run game allow us to back gap with our linebackers instead of track pack and our stack track and fall backing. Just gives us the ability to play the quarterback differently. So let's get into kind of why we look at them this way. So I'm going to just show you from a nickel perspective. You can do this out of any defense that you want in the country. But let's just say you started off right here and you were into our flex 1 rat bump. That is one of my favorite calls in defense. As Nick Saban has said, it's his favorite defensive call. Playing man-to-man on the outside, man-to-man on the slots. And what we're doing is using an indicator fit on that Y or that sniffer, which allows our inside linebackers to single gap that fit, play a banjo technique 2-on-1, but single gap, single back when you are in single high defenses. And what this allows us to do is to slide back and forth based on what that Y is doing. So if he was to slide back here, hopefully you all can see my mouth, but if he was to slide back in this direction, that free safety is going to rock down in here, and that strong safety is going to roll the middle of the field with a cheat third technique. Again, trying to make sure that we are sound in the run game, but yet able to use middle of the field close defensive principles with our secondary, all the dividers and position maintenance things that you've seen become so popular over the last 18 months. And that's what we base out of, is using those principles of middle of the field close defenses so that we can fit cover 1 and cover 3 pretty much the same. So here I drew up a quick one real quick while we were getting started. Sorry, it's not all put together, but this is the pro, right? So this isn't something we would normally do to pro formation, but I just wanted you to see that, you're kind of short in the run game, right? When it comes to playing cover 3 or cover 1, in our opinion. But the rules are for us is that when I go back to the saying, single back, single gap, single high. So when we're in our middle of the field closed defenses, we're trying to play single gap defenses, but we're also using bending chase techniques with our defensive ends and kind of, if you will, the gap exchange that was so popular with the 4-3 defense. This is just showing you how we line up to it and, if you will, create the structure of the box and keeping it the same. All right. So I'll share this with you at any time, guys. This is just playbook stuff, but I know you want to kind of get into some film and some techniques. So again, just showing you how we all line up. Now let's say we do this same principles, right? 8-man spacing, but let's do it out of weak side rotation. So we're rolling down into the weak side, where for us to be the strong safety rolling down the tight end. And this is where we start using indicator rules and finding an idea if the Y is in the box. And I'll go over some of those rules with you here in a second. But like Coach and I were talking about earlier, right here, because of the way we play Rip and Liz match, that star is gone. And a lot of people would say, I'm here, but we're going to say gone to our backers and let them know, because we're in man coverage and Rip Liz match, and we are not going to necessarily be in the run fit. So we can't spill things out there. So we are not in a force, fit, fill, fold mentality of having 4 underneath defenders like most people are used to when they're playing cover 3. Again, we're single back, single gap, single high, right? So we're not using overhangs to create front structures. If your man is in the box, then you are in the fit. But as you can see with the star, his man is out of the box, so he would make the comment, I'm gone. Same principles of when you move it over into tray, same principles when you move it into nub trips, and when you get into America's favorite formation, which is the 2x1, we call twins open. So if you'll take a look at it, what we're doing here is that we can roll down and be in indicator fits. And this is where you've heard so many people talk about, which I'm going to share with you today, is lever, spill, lever fits. And this goes back to those 4-3 run fits so that we can be single back, single gap, single high. So like when we were talking about with rock and roll, when that Y was to kick back and that free safety came down and the strong safety went to the middle of the field, well, the Y has to be taken out by the mic because we're in rip and Liz match rule. So the star is gone. So if that Y was to kick back, that mic has to fit him as the lever on the outside shoulder. And then the money for us would be the spill player into that gap, and the strong safety would be the lever player in that gap, meaning they all fit off the indicator. So if that indicator slides left, all three of those are 4-3 old school, indicator fitting off of him to the left and taking him through, if that makes sense to you in our rip list match terminology and principles. So if that Y was to kick back over on the other side, the same thing. The strong safety is just a little bit more aware of him, if you will, expanding to the weak side, and we take him out there. If that Y kicks in here and runs power, well, that's an indicator fit, and it'll all drive us to this side of the formation as a lever and a spill player and a lever player, and keeping our middle of the field safety out of the fit, which I know is very popular for a lot of high school coaches. What do you mean that free safety is not in the fit? The way we want him to play is that these gone players and these corners are using position maintenance and divider rules, which means they expect that post safety to be there. So he has to be there for us over being in the run game, which is why we classify our run fits probably a little different than some people see them. That's 2x2, that's 3x1. I'm going to get away from that presentation from you real quick. Okay. I'm going to stop that share, and I'm going to go to another share. And this one's going to be into the film a little bit. So this is going to hopefully get us into where you can get into my huddle. Maybe move this slide around. Sorry about that, guys. But, we get into this huddle stuff. And can you see that screen there, Coach?
Yep, you're good.
All right. So run defense foundations. One of the things that we believe in is playing these middle of the field defenses. You got to have what some people call a skate or a cheat technique. And what that means is this is a cheat third technique that allows us to gain a third level safety, eliminate explosive, help us with gap schemes, QB runs, and RPOs. So it's a middle of the third defensive safety technique, 10 to 12 yards off of the hash, roll into the middle of the field. We're going to read, run, flatten out, drive on the receivers, on the RPOs. If it's pass, we got to work the middle of the field and be the post defender. So this is our rock and roll and fitting off the indicator, and that's what I'm talking about. So that strong safety will be fitting down and matching that Y because he's got to get the outside shoulder. He's in man coverage to that Y at that time. And then that free safety is going to clear run first. So he is shuffling through, making sure that it's not run back weak and before he explodes to the post and gets, if you will, in the middle of the field where we need him for position maintenance and dividers. This is just some of my baby freshmen. So these aren't my safeties doing it. This is me teaching my freshman linebackers this principle because I want a kid like this Burrow understanding what's going on in the run fit. So the linebackers understand how fast it's going to be when they get the action flow to them and what it's like, and say, hey, that safety ain't really there. He's kind of skating. So a lot of people kind of make fun of the way I do some things with these kids, but I show them everything. So if you're a linebacker, you're working the middle of the field so that you got an understanding of kind of what's going on in these structures. So cover one, right? My favorite call. This is what it looks like structurally, just lining up. And when you line up a 2x2 formation, you're seeing right now in our 3 safety defense, we got to communicate and get our eyes on the right indicators. If he's in the backfield, if not, let's get in mess coverage, man except shallow on the outside. We're banjo with our 2 guys on the inside. We got our middle of the field post safety, and then that back shoot. That back's running with him when we're using a low rat, which is a whole nother presentation, right? Of playing low rat and using your low hole defender as much as you're using your high hole defender. This is us playing one of our favorite rivals on Flower Mound here in our Lewisville ISD district. Well coached, great players. They just do a great job. They get us in man coverage. As you can see, they get us in an empty formation, and we're staying in one rat. And we're using our position maintenance, as you can see, with our scooch techniques, outside foot up, on those outside receivers. I'd prefer if both corners were in press right now. We had one go a little bit rogue on me, but we'd like for them both to be in press. Eyes on your guys, using your low rat defenders, and being competitive and not being afraid to play man coverage. If you're going to play Ripley's match, and if you're going to play 7, right, match quarters, you got to teach man coverage. So I think it's important to teach man coverage, to believe in man coverage, show them how to use these position maintenance, show them how to use the dividers. As you can see, number 2 being our middle of the field post safety here, and number 12 being our low rat player because of the formation that's been created. And just using those 2 guys as your low hole help players and making sure that you are always patient and calm in man coverage. Here's a good idea of us working the indicator fit off of the sniffer, playing against Plano in district play. And as you can see, my safety's kind of skating out of there slow, check and run mesh, and now he's exploding to the post. I'm going to show you something. I don't have really a whole lot of time, but I'll show you a few things on diagram. This is the way number 17 is our nickel. He's our star. And what they love to do is run same side RPO and put stress on us. So what we did is we just went ahead and rocked down and played what was called a cage or a combo technique between him and the money. So you'll see right here, him and number 8, because it's such a tough concept on them, that allows them to use man exchange principles, still use inside leverage, right, when needed, but outside leverage if they're inside the dividers. Another conversation. I would love to talk to you all about that if I'm going too fast. We want to use stack rules. We have bunch rules. We're a 0.1, 0.2 lock and level team, but using the indicators and using our safeties to fit off of him allows us to play middle of the field close defenses and feel really good in the pass game because of the help. But yet at the same time, we feel really good in the run game because we feel, single gap, single back. Our kids get to put their heels down and play a little bit of football, unlike when I got them stack tracking and fall backing when they're doing all those other things in other defenses, okay? I was going to move a little bit faster. If I could get there, let me make sure I covered everything I want. But just get into what I was talking about with single back, single gap, run spacing. Is that, as you can see right here, the running back is being banjoed by the mic and the wheel in this diagram, and that strong safety comes down. So we gain the 8th run defender when needed. We just make sure that we insert it where it's needed. So as that sniffer can move around and change where he inserts, this allows us to give the ability to insert as we need as well. Some people used to call it old key coverage from Don Brown. Same concept. Here you go again, single back, single gap. Just showing you how it happens differently with a different front. This is showing you when you got a shade 5 and we're going to gap exchange. And this is showing you when you got the 3 technique and it's going to be more of a surf and still fits the same for our safeties. Again, here it is in play, using our skate techniques with our safeties, checking. And here you see him redirect that foot, get it right back down in the ground and run the alley and support again in man coverage. And get you the end zone copy of him right here. So you don't see him early. There's our count using our indicator fit. Here he comes. And then all that safety shadow starts showing back up. And as you can see, without that layer of the defense, we would have been in trouble there. Creating that 3rd layer of defender, it's just been really helpful for us. We love it out of split back and the goal. When you face like Highland Park and Randy Allen, the fantasticness of his football offense, you're just sitting here looking at power out of split back. Yes, but it allows us to insert where we need it insert. So let me get you to the end zone copy. And you'll see number 2, got his eyes on his indicators. We like old school, right? They're in split backs. We cross key it just like you should. We're cross keying, so 2's got his eyes on 5. He sees 5 come his way. He matches that path, and we're able to play good goal line defense with a somewhat of a presentation of a 2-high shell that we know is going to turn into a 1-high defense and get our 8th defender in the box when needed, okay? So any questions so far? I can keep going, but what I'd like to do now is kind of move you into more of my cover 3 world, right? And what I mean by that is that we want to create these same kinds of principles when we're playing our cover 3. All right, so this is just your alignments, what we call over 6. And this is, we're going to set the tight call to the tight end. We're going to have a weak side rotation. And this is just showing us making our gone calls. So right here in Pro Twins, gone, that means they're out of the fit. We're single back, single gap, right? Those are all single back, single gap fits because of where the Y is located. When he puts himself in the backfield, now we go to our lever spill lever fits, and we're going to fit off that indicator and use our indicator fits. Everybody see that, right? And so now when it's 4 open, there's no need. We just call the tight call to the multiples or wherever we decide to call it that week. And we just put our feet in the gap and we're both gone players on the outside. Now, what is lever spill lever? So if you're a young coach and you haven't been around the 4-3 defense a long time and they haven't really showed you a lot of these old run fits, you know what this is talking about, is this is the old 4-3, all right? And what we're saying with our levers is that they have to slide and get back on them. They key the Y in the core. They're the outside edge of the defense, and they're the outside shade alignment if the key is on the line. And your coverage has to match your alignment and your key. So I tell my kids all the time, if you have to carry someone vertical, you're not in the run fit. So like last week, we talked about different coverages. If you're vertical, you're not in the fit versus Braveheart Terminators. What we're talking about now is that if I'm ripless match and I make a gone call, that means I've got to carry number 2 vertically. I'm OU. I got him out and up, a boomer technique. I can't be in the run fit. And we need to make sure that we're communicating that to our interior linebackers. Spill players still keyed in any direction versus gap schemes. They're going to get in over the top or spill overlap mentality, right? And they're kind of those second contained players. Whereas the lever, again, on the 3 receiver sets, like when you're in 11 personnel, the Y is in the core to the key, to the Y in the core, outside edge. Coverage matches key. Away from the key, you need to be looking for an internal A or B gap, right? So those are your rules. Back to the bottom thing, out of the core, 4 open sets, 1 back, 1 gap, single high, single gap. So I said, here, get it. Sorry. Did my screen freeze on everybody?
Yeah, you're good, Coach.
Okay. There. Good. So let's get you in some of the run fits. So now we can see just out of when the tight end's in the core, right?
Coach, wait a second. Are you trying to show film right now or still the diagram?
No, just diagrams.
Okay, you're good then. You're good.
Great. So I think it was just easier to show you, with diagrams, what we're talking about. That, when we get this tight end in the core, we're still in a gone call. We're a D-gap defender, right? And we're using our 4-3 run fits gap exchange. But when they pull, there's your spill overlap. So you can see this single back, single gap with somewhat of a lever spill lever principle. Here's where it really comes to scene, right? So we got our eyes on the indicator. He fits there, and we all fit gap back and use our gap exchange. When he slides, he pulls us all with him, gap, 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 all the way over. Because who has to match the Y in the flat? Our Mike backer, because we're playing rip list match, because the star is making a gone call. Over here again, the Y indicator brings us here, gap, gap, gap over. Y indicator on the line, spilling overlap. Y indicator in the backfield, pulling us over with his slider principles. And this, if you will, fit in front side, sits us on our front side gap, 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 gap. So what we really like about it, again, it's like in rock and roll in our cover 1, we're adding that 8th guy in the box or that lever defender where the slider hits. We're doing the same thing in rip blitz match, lever spill, lever fits. And we can tell our guys, when you're in middle of the field, close defenses, you can fit cover 1 and cover 3 the same because we've made the commitment to rip and list match coverages, right? So, I think that's been a really important thing for us as it comes to our ability to play different formations and different offenses, right? And then, the last thing I'd like to kind of show you guys this afternoon is on this situation. Let me get this right here, last one. Get to my main screen. I think I got it all pulled up. Is getting back into my film. Sorry, it kicked me out of huddle real quick. Let me log back on.
You're good, Coach. You're good.
But when I think you get into is you don't want kids to say, Coach, do you tell your kids 7-8 man run spacing? Yes. I just don't use those terms. When we're in big box fits, we're probably using a boxer's name like Tyson Ali, right? And let them know they're in big box fits. When we're in these middle of the field close defenses, we like to use things like baseball players, like Mickey Mantle means you're in man, right? And then Babe Ruth is your boundary rotation. So it allows us to allow our guys to know when they got that center fielder in the middle of the field, they can fit it just the same as they would if they were playing man coverage, right? And now let me share. If that makes sense to everybody, kind of what I'm getting at?
No. My question for you as you're pulling this up is, have you had to adjust, the baseball terms I think are easy. Have you had to like update the boxing people or terms, given the fact that boxing's not as prevalent as when heck you were younger or I was younger? I mean, I remember watching boxing.
Coach, I agree with you. I agree with him, but here's where I argue with my kids. These defenses were named after my father. Okay. So my dad was a Gold Glove boxing champion out of Memphis, Tennessee. So when we play Bear One, it's called Elvis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Tyson and Ali, if you don't know float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, then you're not one of us. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so one of the cool things that we do, and I think it's like teaching, is that we use these athletes to character develop our kids. So when we put in Tyson and Ali, it allows us to share their story and share their greatness and share the quote about how Ali hated to practice. But you know what he hated more than practicing? Losing, right? And I think kids can really understand it, especially if you knew my kids at Lewisville and the demographics the kids we're working on. Coach Odell's big. I'm a big scheme guy, football guy, but you've got to pour into these kids. And this has given us a great opportunity to teach history and connect the defenses. So every defense that we have that's a 4 down is named after a man or a woman, and there's a story behind it.
Okay.
So what I was going to show you is just, I know this is a run fit clinic, right? But this is the same technique, the scooch
Coach,
man technique.
You need to share your screen.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You're good. I got you on a whole different tangent there.
All right. Yeah. So let me see let me make sure I can find how I share. I'm losing how I click your picture.
Is the
there, I got it.
Okay.
I had to get out of the minimized stuff. How's that? Here we go.
Yep, you're good.
There we go. All right, computers. So, so the coaches, I get a lot of time like, how do you teach all this, right? Well, boomer technique. Number 2, outside and up the field. Scooch, match, carry, deliver, right? So he uses this technique when he's playing man coverage, the scooch catch man. He uses this technique when he's playing his Indian and bracket coverages, right? And he's also using this when he's playing his rip list match cover 3. And we're just making sure that we understand we match 2 out because we're gone. And we're using outside leverage because we're using that middle of the field post safety, if you will, in our dividers and our position maintenance principles. Here he is just, on 2 vert, open and carrying, right? Because he's on the top shoulder. So if you're familiar with rip list match cover 1, you're the vertical seam carrier of 2. If you get this route here, this corner route, which is always tough, always practicing the speed turn. It's one of the most dangerous things that happen to you with outside leverage, using your post safety. Because what I'm telling you right there, get ready to low hip him, right? Get ready to low hip him because he's going to work to the middle, low hip him, and then, got a speed turn out there and get back on top shoulder. So working low shoulders, working top shoulder. So there you see a younger player getting too early in it because what I'm really trying to stress to him, when that guy works the post, we're working low hip, and now we're the underneath cut defender, and the post safety's on top. We don't ever want to be on top shoulder if we got a top safety because, again, we're covering the same side of a receiver. Same things now if you get number 3. So as you drop in the seam, this allows him to match 3 out, right? If you want to use push rules, you can always apply them. 2's in, because we're going to deliver. We're in rip and list match. And now I can help number 1 on the backside because if 2 is in, 1 is in, and I'm going to apply those rules that I've always been coached, right? So cover 6 match. As you can see, we're just using our match principles out of an odd front, using a little, bandit stunt right here. But we're just playing cover 1. There you can see our safety using the same kind of techniques, same kind of look. And what we love is we hope that a lot of coaches are drawing up our cover 3 defenses and drawing them up as cover 1. That's what we hope on a weekly, nightly basis because we want them to look the same. We're just applying different leverages, applying different push rules, and we're not chasing crossers as much, if you will. So here, I'll give you your last cut and we'll get going on and answer any question you have. There's our bandit going to come off this edge, play rip list match. And this pretty much looks like cover 1. And coaches would argue, Coach, what's the difference between cover 1 and rip list match? I'll tell them it's man except shallow. And if he goes shallow, we're going to give him a deliver call, and then we'll zone it off and play a normal seam curl flat and be a cough drop or curl over flat player. Hopefully you got something out of that.
Like I said, I had that was one of the questions that I had while you were going was the terms. I mean, so and I can't remember if I asked you this last time, and because nothing else popped up, if somebody's got a question, pop it before Coach goes. But when you're teaching techniques and terms, do you try to, for each of your coverages, try to piggyback or use those same terms as much as humanly possible? I think that's like, because again, we all sit on Twitter and see stuff on Twitter, and I think that's becoming a lot more common thing that's being explained a little bit better. But whether it's cover 4 quarters, whether it's cover 3, if you can use a term that help install and speed, like how does that work for you guys?
So here's something I learned a long time ago, and thankfully, being around a guy like Joe Lee Dunn when I was young, and Craig Jerzel when even I was at Hutch, is that every coverage has a technique. Well, that technique needs to be named. So, for instance, when we run our 7 Indian and we're playing that tight cone double team on the slot receivers, the outside guy, the outside piece of that double team is playing the boomer. He's OU. He's got that guy out and up the field. The inside safety is playing a Hoosier technique. He's got him inside and up. Okay. Now, when we go to play what we call Bronco quarters, where that safety's on the hash and we get a pro look, that safety is playing boomer from the hash. He's got that tight end out and up the field, so he can just play his Bronco rules, his boomer rules when he's playing Bronco coverage. When he goes to play ripless match and he's gone, he's playing boomer. OU, I got number 2 out and up the field. I'm doing everything in man coverage that I just talked about, except I can't deliver him inside. I've obviously got to squeeze him in because now we're in man. So the boomer technique that we showed you the last couple of times is applied in 4 different coverages for us, so that we're not teaching a bunch of techniques. We're teaching techniques, but not a bunch of different techniques. So that if you got a menu, and I tell my guys, if we get a kid that has a technique list of 10, it's too many. In those 10 techniques, we should be able to run every coverage in the country. And that's just from experience of, going through this process of naming techniques, being detailed in what we're teaching, and trying to scaffold. This wasn't an easy process. Trust me. When I first got into all this, my staff and I don't have as many friends on staffs as I used to, because we lost some friendships because they felt it was philosophically, it was just too much at the high school level. Luckily where I'm at, I got guys who have bought in, and our head coach supports me in all this and allows me to teach probably more than we should at the high school level.
Okay. No, that was kind of my main question. And because obviously not every state gets as much time as Texas. I mean, that's just, so I think a lot of the southern states, there's a lot more frequency of athletic periods and stuff you can do year round. I think that's starting to change up north. I mean, me and you talked a little bit about that with the change in the 7-on-7 rule for Ohio. And that's kind of like, if you want to be able to install stuff year round or do some stuff, because we're getting a little bit more leeway on stuff we're able to do. I think you got it, whether offense or defensively, as much same as is humanly possible, I think, to get this stuff. Because again, people are going to, not just my channel, but a bunch of other resources. You can find information on passing concepts, deep coverages, like that stuff's there. So
it's there.
It's not like people aren't going to use it, and people are going to adapt and evolve. And again, there'll be the inverse of that, where people will go hyper the other way. And
you're so right, Coach. And like my wife, during COVID, she's like, why aren't you doing what these other guys are doing? Why aren't you packaging it? Why aren't you selling it? And I was like, because I stole it. Right? A lot of people are promoting things like they invented them. Right? These things have been around a long time.
Yeah.
It's like I tell people all the time, can you coach it? Can you, who are your corners coaches out there that have a press man technique tape that they have used for many years and have coached press man?
Yeah.
Right. If you haven't, then this stuff really ain't for you. Right. That's where I've come from. So it's easier for me to do it. I'm comfortable in press man. Joe Lee Dunn taught us how to play, the old stack defense was 5 free. Right. That's what we based out of. And that's when I was at Hutchins Junior College. Craig Jerzel allowed me to put Rip Liz match cover 3 in with Joe Lee's system, and it changed everything for us. So we actually won a bowl game that year, and it just allowed us not to chase crossers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It allowed us to play fire zones better. And, and like when I was talking to a coach the other day, Coach, when you're playing quarters, you're 3 under 4 deep. Your 3 underneath defenders have to fit like a fire zone. And he looked at me and I was like, you have 3 underneath defenders. And he looked at me and I said, it's all the same shit, guys. We just are putting different lipsticks on a pig and changing it up. It's the same old stuff.
Well, Coach, I'm going to leave it there because that's the perfect analogy, and I don't think it's going to get much better than that. So, coaches, like I said, give Coach a follow on the Twitter. If you got any questions, I put his Twitter in the chat. If you got any further questions for him, reach out to Coach. If you have questions on his prior clinic, it's on the channel, both on the full and that. Coach, thank you as always. You're fantastic, and you're a plethora of knowledge.
Well, thank you for the compliments. Anytime.
Thank you, Coach.